the average guy, if he's single, his dating life consists of long periods of celibacy, maybe occasionally getting lucky in some random hookup or something, starting something with a girl and then her flaking, this might go on in a frustrating capacity for 2-3 years before maybe he ends up in a relationship with someone that often he didn't really choose and doesn't necessarily want to be with, but has to out of scarcity.
Tell us a bit, like, all these struggles, like how do men process all this rejection? How do they deal with it? Because I think that we also have like this idea of men just being kind of insensible, maybe in a way.
You mean insensitive? Is that what you mean? Insensitive?
Yeah, right. Insensitive, like just being like not really caring or not really being affected by like a lot of things, and I don't think that's true. And like as you go like through the whole phase, like from the beginning to the end, like could you tell us like what are some of the struggles that men face from the beginning, then like in the middle part when they're already like starting to know the girl, and then like at the end?
Well, the first thing to note is that there is a massive class system within the sexual market. And that goes for both men and women. So if we're talking about the struggles of men and women, we actually do need to divide them into categories, because there are certain small percentages of men who get the vast majority of attention from women. And for those, and this is based on, surprise, surprise, attractiveness, height, race, status primarily, right? And social access and social ability. And the statistics back this up 100%. If you look at like Tinder statistics, for example, it's the top 20% of men who get 80% of the attention from women, and the bottom 80% of men, defined by the algorithm, not defined by me, get almost no attention, right? So there is a massive wealth gap, let's say a sexual wealth gap within the spread of what men experience. So the ballers, the players, the guys that, the hot dudes, the chads, those guys get the vast amount of attention and therefore dates and sex and options to relationships. So they're living in a very different world than the vast majority of other men. And I think often when women are complaining about men in some kind of way of them being insensitive or players or whatever, they're talking about that tiny niche of men. For most women, they're not even aware of the rest of the spread of men because they're invisible. And so if we talk about that other group, which is the vast majority of men on the planet to a greater or lesser degree, unless they're extremely proactive and put themselves out there, they will be invisible for life, right? People will eventually maybe hook up with someone through a social circle eventually or through an app eventually or whatever, but there are massive groups of men who are chronically lonely, right? And chronically not seen as sexual prospects. And so the struggles, and there's a big, spectrum of that, from total incels to who no one wants to spend time with and don't have access to anybody, and so therefore they're left behind, through to the guys, the average guy, who, if he's single, his dating life consists of long periods of celibacy, maybe occasionally getting lucky in some random hookup or something, starting something with a girl and then her flaking, this might go on in a frustrating capacity for 2-3 years before maybe he ends up in a relationship with someone that often he didn't really choose and doesn't necessarily want to be with, but has to out of scarcity, right? And then the relationship lasts for as long. I mean, I'm giving a generic story here, but this is the stories that I hear every single day and have experienced, with many different variations, but similar kind of, points in the narrative. So, when we're dealing with the average man, yeah, the dating game sucks. It's gotten much, much worse since the advent of Tinder, Instagram, and OnlyFans and sugar dating websites. Much, much worse. And so, for the average man, he's told now, which is weird, that 15 years ago meeting someone online was considered to be creepy, and now if you meet someone in real life, that's considered to be creepy in general. But yeah, those men are kind of told, well, when the time is right, the right person will come into your life. No, she won't. That's not true. Go on the dating apps. Like 90% of the women will never even see your profile. Like they won't even see it. So the 90 and there's something like 10-to-1 ratio of men to women on those dating apps. So the game is stacked massively against you. So you are going to fail in the aggregate. This leads to massive feelings of unworthiness, right? Because often the struggles that men have is that they're only perceived to be valuable by their utility. So what they produce, what they own, and what social clout they have. And this is, again, a generalization, but a lot of men don't feel like they have any value and nobody cares about them outside their family and their mother or whatever, that they're not valuable inherently as a human being. That's why they have to bust their asses for 80 hours a week to prove themselves, to build something so that one day if they have the right car and the right watch and the right whatever, then maybe they'll get some attention from women. So this is interestingly, when I started coaching, I thought I'd learn a lot about women and the dynamics between men and women, which I have, but I learned so much more about the hidden pain of men, because they tell me things like a hairdresser or something that they wouldn't tell other people, things they wouldn't tell their psychologist. And I get guys who are extremely successful or very competent in their work life and so on, but they feel like they're essentially not worthy as human beings. And so much of it comes from just being ignored by women. And then my solution to that is to actually teach them that it's not actually that hard to get the attention of women and the women that you actually want when you learn to just bowl up to a stranger and say, "Hi, how are you? You look pretty. What's your name?" Because that's such a randomly weird thing to do these days in most places that it works, but you have to put in numbers. You're like, a guy's going to have to approach 100 strangers well in order to get a handful of dates, and that's a hard statistic to handle. But once you learn that no one can reject you as a human being after talking to you for 2 minutes. They don't know you. They don't have the right or the authority to decide that you're a shit human being. They're just rejecting the way you looked, or they don't feel like talking to you today, or they got a boyfriend or whatever. And when you get over that fear and realize it's not personal, then men can enter into a world where they do actually have choice and can actually build worthiness through, in relation to their relationships with women. So yeah, those are some of the pains that are not spoken about, that are just not known, I think, to most women, and also to the groups of men where it's kind of easy, or where they get access to the types of women or the dates or the relationships that they want, because it fucking sucks to be lonely. It sucks to be left out. And it's much worse when, Instagram's pumping all of these images of what your life should be, and so many men are not getting it. And as a result, they disappear into pornography, addictions, self-harm, depression, video games, isolation, and that can often lead to bitterness and resentment towards women, because they see that women are giving all of this sex, attention, love, whatever, to guys that are arseholes that don't deserve it, and they're being overlooked, which then, leads into things like attraction to someone like Andrew Tate, or to the red pill, or to the black pill incel movements, because it's a reaction to feelings of unworthiness and loneliness. So, it's a complex mess, but there's kind of some of the spiderweb map of how it works. Good day, gentlemen. Now, I know today's video was a little bit on the bleak side, but it is important to have a reality check from time to time to see where do you fit in the current status and the sexual market place, and to look at hacks and cheats to be able to navigate through it. Trying to compete on the apps tends to lead to frustration and failure, whereas the age-old science and art of natural style seduction still works, thankfully. Being able to roll up to a stranger, to be able to be confident, seductive, to have good communication skills is still the way to go from high to date, to relationship, to sex, to marriage, to all the good things that can come out of the interpersonal relationships between men and women. You can choose to bow out of this race and live alone, but that is going to suck and get untenable in the long term. Or you can choose to learn the skills. So if you'd like to do that, I'm giving away a free 3-part video course right now. You just need to click the link into the description. You'll get your first video immediately. And if you'd like to be able to get this area of your life sorted permanently, then you should consider joining myself and my world-class team at The Natural Lifestyles for our live, fully immersive 7-day seduction in a game lifestyle design program happening in April, Budapest next year. Right now, we're offering some early bird discounts. So if you'd like to get on a call with us, we can have a chat, obligation free, talk to you about your issues, see if we can be of assistance, and hopefully you can join us for our first live workshop coming up in 2024. That's all from me for now. Peace out.